Good evening, everyone. What's up? I just ate a satisfying meal and topped it off with a measly dessert. This is Mr. Hot speaking. Previously, I did the 12th part to the top 45 worst SpongeBob episodes, second edition. Today is the 13th part of the top 45 worst SpongeBob episodes. 13 is an unlucky number, quote unquote. We have left off at number 9. We have covered numbers 13, 12, 11, and 10. So we are in the top 10 currently. Let's get to number 9, shall we? Shall we begin? Number 9 is Krabby Chronicle from Season 8, August 2012. Not too far from the Patty Caper in time and rank. The rank applying to this countdown, the time applying to when it first aired. This is so much to talk about in this countdown. This deserves to be beaten up this episode. Mr. Krabs, who is extremely cheap, who must be penniless or even centless, puts an ad into the Bikini Bottom Examiner newspaper, which only costs him a nickel. The purpose of that was to attract many new customers. So far, there were no new customers. The bottom feeder was where it's at, apparently. The bottom feeder seems to be selling like Krabby Patties or hotcakes, which gives Mr. Krabs a big idea. All night, he worked on a printing press he makes for SpongeBob, twice as busy, with 2 hats instead of 1. As well as being a fry cook, SpongeBob is also the news reporter for the Krabby Chronicle. He gets his own badge and his very own camera. Mr. Krabs expects him to find a juicy story that will sell well. When he spots Patrick waiting for the bus, he is just watching a poll for no reason at all. Nobody wants to buy the story, of course. Local resident watches poll, which is said to be malarkey by Mr. Krabs. One might find this that way too. SpongeBob is told to use his imagination. Instead of man watches poll, man marries poll. So he wants him to get creative. Although SpongeBob thinks of it as lying, Mr. Krabs says it's a joke. The first story. Mrs. Puff is going to laugh her head off when she sees this, or reads this, is what a little news story is. The story is sellable. Voting teacher gets in high-speed chase. Mr. Krabs asks, how can such a little news story hurt Mrs. Puff? It ruins Mrs. Puff's business. Like how? It's just some silly story to be profitable. It's not meant to hurt people. Do they have to take everything so far? The next thing SpongeBob does is stalk Larry the Lobster. A dummy is rude enough to ask, hey, Larry, tough guy, can I punch you in the gut? Sure, it won't hurt a bit. He is punched in the gut and laughs. Consequently, out, out, out! Hey, what's the big idea? He is kicked out of the gym from the story. Larry the loser gets beaten up by Pipsqueak. Here was a memorable line. But, no buts. I can't have you destroy my gym reputation by a wimp. You're banned forever. What? Larry the loser got thrown out of the gym just over that story for life? What difference does it make to Larry's life? Can't he just use some other gym from all that? SpongeBob is ever so worried about lying. Mr. Krabs does not give a darn about what he has to say and only cares about the loot that he has. SpongeBob questions if there is a way to do this without hurting people, but Mr. Krabs says no person is hurting him. He just wants another story. No, there is no other way to do this. You have to hurt people. It never worked, and it never will. At the Chum Bucket, Plankton thinks that he has created a food item that will make Mr. Krabs go out of business. Do you know what? That sounds like a bunch of baloney or BS. There is no way Plankton is that good enough to make Mr. Krabs go out of business. It never has worked and it never will. That was just completely random and out of context. Was that even needed? No. And I don't think so. The easiest way to put it is that this was an utterly unnecessary line that was completely off topic. It had nothing to do with Plankton's personality at all. Okay, he is stopped by a healthy inspector who says, I think not, in a cool way. Plankton's chum is made from your chum? That's the news. His restaurant is shut down, which makes no difference due to the fact that he never has customers anyway. I'm sorry that Plankton lost his restaurant, but why does Plankton care so much? He isn't even making any profits from it. SpongeBob does not feel well when he hears what happened, but Mr. Krabs does not care due to his success. When SpongeBob questions this, he is given a warning from Mr. Krabs that if he does not shut up and do as he is commanded to do, he will kiss his spatula goodbye. Mr. Krabs, you wouldn't. Oh, darn tootin' I would. Now fetch me another story. Well, so would I. I wouldn't let SpongeBob question everything I'm doing. And I would force him to get back to work. No us, obviously. At Sandy's Tree Dome, her science awards are confiscated. What? Wait, hey, isn't that illegal? Barging into someone's house just like that? You can't do that. You can't. That's trespassing. You should have been arrested for that. Also, when did Sandy win all those science awards? She's not good at science. That's BS. She sucks at science. If she was good at science, she'd be studying like AP biology. Yeah, stealing one's awards is illegal too. Theft is theft. How did one even manage to get past her in the house? Was she not paying attention? Well, was it that? The news were that Sandy Cheeks or Sandy Chump, bushy-tailed brainiac, slow-witted score by SpongeBob SquarePants. That story right there has outraged her and the ones who were stealing her awards. No one has the right to confiscate one's science awards. I thought that was in the rules. Those characters should have been arrested, and they were just some random strangers that we never see again in any other episode. Boo! SpongeBob can't take this behavior anymore, but Mr. Krabs tells him to write the wildest story ever, although pretty much all the main characters have been used up. All but Squidward and the superheroes Merry Man and Barnacle Boy. Well, who could be the last character for this new one? The next day, all the citizens of Bikini Bottom, who don't even deserve to be called citizens for their poor behavior, are raging like a bunch of crybabies over what? Well, what on earth do you think you are? What on earth do you think you're raging over? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So Mr. Krabs has overworked employees. Big deal. He always and always will. If people don't get that through their thick skulls, someone's going to pay for this and get beaten up. This is serious. It's their own fault for everything. How do these brainless people not know this before? Were they not paying attention? Were they beating their meat all day? Guess not. It's all their fault for everything. Remember that. A rude woman screams at the top of her lungs, "How can you do this to such an innocent child? It's sickening and inhumane!" Do you know what? Yeah, you there. Shut up, you big fat woman. And no, SpongeBob is not an innocent child. How could you think that? You obviously haven't seen SpongeBob in any of the other episodes. SpongeBob may have been innocent in this one episode, but not in many others. I can recall at least 20 times where he hasn't been innocent. Pah! Innocence. BS. Okay, when I watched this part of the episode just recently, even though this episode was made well over 6 years ago, I laughed my heart out. I was laughing at that woman's obnoxiousness. That obnoxious woman should have been beaten up by a character. That is how uncool she was. Sandy points out that they were all lies. Plankton lost his restaurant because of him, even though he thought he was evil. I lost my restaurant because of you, and I thought I was evil. All the kids want to beat me up for lunch money. All the kids want to beat up Larry the Lobster for lunch money? Oh my goodness. Then, how is that even possible? That's baloney. All the rude citizens steal all their money back. And, oh my goodness, come on! Couldn't Mr. Krabs just have beaten them up himself? How can he not beat everyone up? I really want to see the citizens get pounded by Mr. Krabs. At the end, Patrick asks for a few Krabby Patties for his wife, Pull. That is never seen again. Randomness. The end. This atrocity easily shows how retarded the townspeople really are. There are so many things wrong with this Season 6 episode. First of all, how on earth can such a little news story make such a negative impact on one? It's just some lame old story that must be sellable. It's not there to hurt people. It's just to grab one's attention so that the stories sell. Second, why do those so-called citizens make such a big deal out of it? Third, everything was BS. There's at least two aspects of randomness. Fourth, the citizens of Bikini Bottom demonstrated such bad behavior, worse than Mr. Krabs' behavior ever. How dare they steal money? That's theft. Theft is theft. Everyone said so, even though I don't say it all the time. Mr. Krabs was not the villain. You were. Yes, you were. You were in the wrong. Mr. Krabs was not in the wrong. You were. You made a fuss over something for nothing. Over a silly story that made things interesting. Bad people. Bad. One last thing. How on earth would people beat people up for lunch money? That's so lame. That's so random. Who beats people up for lunch money? That's never gonna work. Who came up with that idea? The Season 6 episode really went to the extreme of almost everything. The only good part about this episode was Squidward was left alone for once. The other characters were not used that were Pearl, Karen, and Gary the Snail. Thank goodness Squidward was not a part of this bad episode. That's all one can say about this episode. That's all I have to say for this 13th part of the top 45 worst SpongeBob episodes. See everyone on the on the next part, the 14th part of the top 45 worst SpongeBob episodes. Good night. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I actually say this? Good night. There will be at least 2 or 3 more parts, so stay tuned.